Good morning, everyone. I hope you have a big old cup of coffee because it's Thursday and we are back. Coffee with Kem and Hills. We have some fun topics that we're going to be diving into. We're glad that you are joining us. And let's just debrief a little bit.
Yeah.
How was your morning?
Pretty mellow. Easy off to school, which is always key.
Nice.
Got to drink my coffee before I came to work this morning.
Oh my gosh,
so,
our adrenal glands are shriveled. It's what are you doing?
Looking forward to the weekend.
Yes.
I don't have any major plans, but just, some play dates and
Nice.
some warm weather.
Oh my gosh, warm weather. Isn't
so
it the
lovely.
best?
Yes.
It really is. Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to report. And that's new for me because usually my kid keeps me
On your toes.
on my toes in the morning. Yeah.
She's at that age.
Oh my gosh. Yes, she is. My husband and I are splitting the morning shift and it's funny. I feel like both of us are using the same tactic in the morning where we don't move. If I move, he'll know I'm up.
The first person to move.
Yeah,
loses.
I feel and then they have to get up because it's oh, you're awake. So it's we freeze. There's no one's breathing in bed. Yeah. It's a struggle.
That's hilarious.
No one wants that morning shift. We're happy to put her to bed, but it's that morning shift.
Especially if it's before the normal time where you're okay, 7 a.m.
Yeah, she's not very consistent. I will say.
Yeah.
I wish she was with that 7 a.m.er, but sometimes it'll be 8 out of nowhere, and then sometimes it's 5:30, and I'm child.
Right.
Please. But what are you gonna do? We are surviving.
Right.
All right. Let's get into some hot topics.
Hot topics.
Okay. So getting married. Don't forget to talk about money first. This is from Kiplinger. Yeah. So this article offers advice from Natalie and Dan Slagle. Slagle.
What a fun name to say.
Slagle. It kind of is. They are founders of a financial planning firm that specializes in advising couples. I didn't know that there was such a thing. I knew there was couples therapy. I didn't know that it was specified for finances as well.
I guess that makes sense.
Totally.
A lot of probably your therapy could be about finances.
I'm sure it is.
I mean, you have to pay for therapy, but then also,
Right.
People have different money mindsets coming into a marriage and what it means. So it totally makes sense that there's a couple is, advising financially.
Totally.
To
I was
couples.
thinking that's a really good business. I feel like it's becoming more and more popular, what couples therapy on top of financial planning, marry them together. Hey, there you have it.
Right.
Advising couples.
There you go.
Okay, so their first tip is talk to your future spouse about your upbringing around money, which I think that really does explain a lot about sort of your foundational views. And even if you don't necessarily agree with how maybe your parents or whatever you were privy to growing up, whatever that looked like financially, sometimes it just leaves a lasting effect.
Totally.
Sort of a stain on your perspective. Right.
Whether you have the same impulses and same mindset as your parents, or whether you're doing the complete opposite because you're trying to learn from their mistakes, or you really didn't like the way they handled things. It's going to affect you.
Yeah. I actually write in a little journal to my daughter, and I wrote in it and I said, my biggest faults will be your greatest hurdles. And it's true because it is true. Either you start you pick up on the bad habits, or you just avoid them to the nth degree and you go too far in the other direction.
Right.
And it's just, it's a real thing. So I think, understanding where your partner comes from financially will inform so much, and you can sort of work through potentially some things together, or you'll learn something because maybe they had a really positive experience where they learned a lot and they have a lot to bring to the table. And hey, you never know.
Yeah, you never know, but you should talk about it. I mean, marriage, for better or worse, is a financial institution. That is one of the reasons why it was created, is to bind property together, bind families together.
Yep.
And it still is today. There's so many tax things that you get from being in a marriage. Not that you have to ever get married. That's like totally a personal decision these days.
Totally.
But there's so many things that go into it. And, you know, not only there's so many reasons a marriage can fall apart or a relationship. Doesn't matter if you're married or not. But, you know, why not take financial issues out of that equation?
Right.
Like, so that you've talked about it ahead of time, you know where each other are at. Not only mindset, but also your financial issues. Like, do you come with a lot of student debt or credit card debt?
You may not be excited to share those truths, but the fact is, hey,
you might need to.
Plan.
Yeah, exactly. So being financially transparent.
Yes.
And not having financial infidelity even before you're married would probably be beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that this has always been sort of it has been a financial institution marriage, it's strange that couples were not having these conversations prior, and now we're trying to kind of break through those social barriers that have been built. That should have always been the norm, considering what it actually is, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're, you know, making headway.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be that deep to talk about finances.
Right. Money, although it can be a scary thing, shouldn't be, especially if you're talking to your life partner.
Yeah, and it'll be less scary if you talk about it and create a plan, right?
Exactly.
So even if you choose to keep your money separate, there still needs to be transparency. So I know some people choose to like have, you know, separate bank accounts or whatever, but still, you know, showing up and having the conversation, you know, maybe every few months or so, quarterly, I don't know what it is, and saying, hey, this is where my checking account is, this is where my savings account is, and being just like really honest and open about where your spending is going and what your goals are and things like that.
Right. Yeah. If, you know, putting down financial goals, do you want to buy a house? Do you want to have children? Do you want to travel and take a trip that might cost X amount every year? Like, how are you guys going to work together to meet those financial goals? You have to talk about it, whether it's monthly or quarterly, just depending on what cadence works best for you.
Yep. They also recommended if you want all your spending transactions to be together, they recommend a joint credit card and list the person with the best credit as the owner, and the other spouse can as the authorized user, which they can actually build their credit through this credit card as long as you are paying it off and, you know, being responsible with it. But that is like a recommended way that you can, you know, have spending transactions in one place.
Right. You can have that financial transparency without probably having to have so many conversations.
Right. And that might actually help some people meet their goals because, you know, somebody else is paying attention as well. And that might, I think for me, that we don't do this.
No.
We don't do this, but it probably would be helpful for me. Because I'd be like, oh, right. But, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I agree with you. Having somebody else who is looking at it might make me a little bit more accountable. But sometimes I still deserve to treat myself to, you know, that $15 salad that I definitely don't need to buy.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it. Since I've been pregnant, chopped, 20 minutes away.
There you go.
So that's gas and like a $17 salad. And I've said, Tam, you have to drive me to Chopped. You have to.
Yeah, so, you do. She's growing a human in there. So, yeah.
A very strange, specific craving that I've had. Oh my goodness. All right, so the next thing that they talk about are prenups. Dun, dun, dun. Apparently, sometimes they're a good thing. Sometimes it might not be necessary. Apparently, you know, everyone has a different story. So I think it is sort of, it is dependent upon what your financial situation is.
Right.
And sometimes it might be that one of the partners comes from some wealth and they are probably going to get a large inheritance. And, you know, maybe they want some control over if that relationship does not work out, how that inheritance is going to be passed on. So that might be one reason it might be a good idea for you, but again, that is up to the couples and...
Yeah, I think having that conversation ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, you have to.
So, guilty pleasure situation. I like to watch Summer House on Bravo. I don't know if
I've not seen it, but I like things like this.
It is. It's a really fun show to watch.
Okay, yeah, just mindless.
Just mindless. Reality TV drama. People getting drunk in the Hamptons.
Love it.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I can do work and be watching it.
And if you're missing out on there's no major plot point that's going to
Exactly. But one of the arcs for this past season was that two of the characters or people are getting married at the end of the season. And he's an entrepreneur. She actually quit her job and works for the company as well.
Okay.
And so there have all these ups and downs about planning the wedding, and they've had to replan their wedding 3 different times because of COVID.
The drama.
So there's a lot of drama, which half of it I didn't understand why it was so dramatic. Because I'm like, if you've already planned your wedding 3 different times,
you should know what you're doing.
You should already know all these different steps that she was they'd show her face and his face, and the wedding planner would be like, you need to get all these things done in the next week. And they'd just be like deer in headlights, they've never heard this before. And I'm just like,
you planned 3 weddings.
Yeah, you planned 3 weddings. None of this should be new information.
Right.
But anyway, I digress. Anyway, he has put a lot of his own money into, and time. He is the CEO of a startup company, and she also works there and works there full time.
Right.
She's not as invested because she's not the CEO, right?
Yeah.
But she does all the graphics. She's the graphic designer, and is one of the reasons why I think that this company is probably successful is because it looks cool, it looks good.
Right.
There's other reasons, I'm sure, but, they go back and forth on getting a prenup signed.
Oh, yeah.
And I found it really funny because they basically waited until the last minute. He had this last minute conversation with her 2 weeks before the wedding, or at least this is the way they posed it on the show. Who knows?
Yeah, right. How is this really edited? And,
right.
What really happened? Right.
And I just was like, if this was a conversation, they've been engaged for 3 years. Have this conversation when you first get engaged.
I know. I think it's a real life thing, though, putting off that conversation because it's uncomfortable for people.
Yeah.
It's not the most romantic conversation to have, is it?
But there's a lot of unromantic conversations you have leading up to a wedding and also once you're married.
Yeah, wait till you have a kid.
Right. So, I mean, I think prenups can be a good thing, they can be a bad thing, or they can be perceived as a bad thing, but they can be a protection for the different parties involved. Yep. I think, but having those conversations early on, either an engagement or beforehand, financial conversations with your partner, even before you get engaged or start down that pathway.
Do it before you get engaged, because then you don't feel like you're tainting the engagement or whatever.
Right.
Have all those conversations when you're just dating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's one way to do it, I think.
Exactly.
Okay, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but we will be right back to talk about some more hot topics. Welcome back, everyone. All right, we're going to just dive into some more hot topics. So our next article, want to join the FIRE movement? Consider these 3 things first. This is from thefool.com. So I didn't know what FIRE stood for, literally FIRE. FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. Sounds nice.
So this is certainly, it feels like a social media phenomena. There's a lot of people who are involved, not only involved in it, but there's a lot of tips and tricks and a lot of different groups that are trying to support each other within the FIRE movement.
Right.
It's certainly a financial way of life for people, but it does feel like it is a major financial way of life.
Wow.
Because basically you're making small, short-term sacrifices.
For a long-term
typically
goal.
very tight budgeting without a lot of extra fun, in my opinion, or like at least this is what
So you're pulling back now so you can let loose later.
so that you can let loose later and earlier. So maybe you could retire by the time you're 45 instead of having to wait till 65.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know personally if I'm willing to give up vacations in order to retire at 45.
Oof, it would be hard.
You know?
It would be hard.
So you put yourself on a very tight budget typically to then retire early. But maybe that's what some people want to do.
Wow, that's so hard because then you're like, oh, I want to live my life to the fullest right now because you just never know what could happen.
Yeah.
But okay. I mean, I've not actually heard of this. So apparently I'm not in the FIRE algorithm on social media. I'm sure I will be now. My cell phone's probably listening to me and I'm going to be hearing all about it any day now. But okay, so the article gives you some tips as to what you can do if you want to be a part of the FIRE movement. How much do you need to reach FIRE? Well, you need to know your goals, which we talk about all the time.
Right.
Even with normal retirement. When do you want to retire? So apparently these people are potentially picking years a lot sooner than 65 and up. How much does your desired lifestyle cost each year? Well, I'm sure if you've been starving yourself of all of the things that you enjoy, it's probably going to be hefty once you hit that early retirement.
Yeah. So like, do you need to have $3 million saved by the time you're 45?
Yep.
In order to have the lifestyle you want for retirement for the long term.
Right.
So how do you get there? What are you taking out from your current budget in order to get you there?
Are you eating canned beans every day so you can eat Michelin-starred dinners every night by 45? I don't know. Maybe you are.
Right. Yeah. Maybe that's a choice you make.
Are you planning to make any big purchases in the near future, like a house or a car? You're going to have to factor that in.
Yeah. Or
tiny home.
Yeah, maybe you have a tiny home.
That's one way to do it, right?
Or live in an RV to save money.
That used to be my dream as a kid. I used to beg my family. I was like, oh, please, can I live in an RV? I thought it'd be so fun. I still think it would be fun.
I think it'd be fun to do for like a couple years.
Yeah.
I don't know, like long term.
Yeah, well, and when as the family gets bigger too, it's like...
Yeah.
I just don't know about that anymore. But, it would be fun. Or at least like a cross-country trip in an RV. That would be nice too.
Exactly.
What type of lifestyle do you want after you retire? So you need to consider the lifestyle you want when developing your financial plan. Where do you want to live? And what's the estimated cost of living? That's huge because it really, really varies based on where you are, doesn't it?
It does.
Don't I know it? Oh my gosh. The taxes where I live are like, it's insane.
Yes.
Nobody retires where I live. They all like move to Florida and then everyone, that has kids, they stay there, for the school and like it's just out of control. Yeah. Do you plan to travel more or pick up some new hobbies? Will you be responsible for anyone else? So these are all things to consider when you think about your lifestyle. For FIRE. And when will you tap into your retirement accounts? Oh, this is kind of interesting. I didn't, know that you could potentially tap in as early. I kind of thought that it was standard, like 65, but it said you can start taking penalty-free withdrawals from your employer-sponsored 401k plan after you turn 59 and a half.
Important. Just like your 4.5 or 4 3/4.
Right.
Not 59 or 60.
59 and a half.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that either. I also thought it was 65, or whatever your full retirement age is. It's Social Security, which I think for us is 67 now.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, are you going to tap into it at 59 and a half, or are you do not need to tap into it until you're 65? What are you planning on doing there?
Right. I mean, if you're planning to, and able to budget for like a super early retirement, like 45, that's just going to be a bonus by the time you hit 59 and a half.
Right. So, but what's going to get you there if you retire at 45, but you can't get into your 401k without penalties
Right,
until
you have to
59
plan
and
for
a half?
that. You can't like...
Are you using a brokerage account, which is taxable? Do you have, Roth IRA? Like, what are you doing to get you to that level?
Right. Because you can withdraw from your Roth IRA anytime you want, but that will include penalties until you reach 59 and a half.
Right.
I just thought that was a funny number. I was like, okay.
Those arbitrary government numbers, they're pretty fun.
Yeah, I thought this whole thing was an interesting concept, but it's apparently, I'm sure anyone that's watching is like, oh yeah, FIRE. I had never heard of it. I'm just trying to keep up with my retirement that's going to be happening way down the road.
I think, there's a lot of people, it's a great movement, and it can help people really realize their financial goals and desires. I don't know if it's great for everybody.
Yeah.
To your point, like, I don't think it's right for me. I don't know if I'll retire at 65 or possibly do it a little bit earlier if I can, but I don't think it'll be I don't think I'll be 40 and be retired. Like, I just don't see that in my future, unfortunately.
I know, unfortunately. Hey.
40 is coming too soon anyway, so, like, definitely not.
Right. If we win the lottery,
right.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's my FIRE, that's how I'm going to get to FIRE.
That's my FIRE goal is lottery tickets. All right. Well, I think that's it for Hot Topics today, but we're going to take another quick commercial break, and we will be right back. So that I can remind you about the shows airing today on ROI TV. Welcome back, everyone. I just wanted to remind you to catch today's episodes of Elder Talk, Options Crash Course, and Browns in Suits. They will all be airing, as you know, on ROI TV. And where can they find?
You can find our app on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, or on your iPhone or Android.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. There's
everywhere
no
you want to
excuse.
be.
That's right. I like that. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of Coffee with Kem and Hills. We will see you tomorrow for the wind down and the weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Cheers.